My name is Avery, and I have spiked feet. Spikes have grown on my feet. Now I'll tell you why it happened and how I live this way. I used to do athletics and liked to jog in the morning. I had a fairly close relationship with sports. Even in my room, there were posters with slogans like "Movement is life" and with the promotion of a healthy lifestyle. Honestly, I despised those who ate a lot, killed themselves with unhealthy stuff, gained weight, and were so lazy that they couldn't even walk a couple of miles. I called such people lazy bones and said that they were weaklings and loafers. A couple of years ago, I was preparing for jogging. I put on my sneakers and noticed that it hurt me to step on my foot. I thought that it was a callus, since calluses are a common occurrence among joggers, and didn't pay much attention to it. But that day I couldn't jog as usual because it felt like a needle was stuck in my sore foot, and it was the reason I couldn't run. Anyway, I thought I had a splinter in my foot, so I decided to go home and pull it out. Well, it was neither a callus nor a splinter. It was a white, hard thing, half the size of a grain of rice that was sticking out of my foot. I didn't know what it was, but I was sure that it would disappear soon. Meanwhile, I would step on the heel of one foot and take time out from training. But the damned pimple didn't disappear in a week, and even a month, and it constantly hurt while walking. Only then I decided to show it to my mother, and she said I had to see a doctor. The doctor told me that it was the so-called plantar wart, and it needed to be removed. Well, if it needs to be removed, it should be removed. I won't live with it forever, I thought. On the same day, they surgically cut out the hated lump from my foot. It sucked. It even hurt. But I knew why I endured it, and I was ready to suffer for another couple of weeks until my foot was completely healed. But there was a big disappointment ahead of me, because the plantar wart didn't disappear. It was back. It was larger, and it hurt more than the previous one. Besides, there were 2 more plantar warts. I was so scared that I rushed to the doctor right away. I asked him what he had done. What the hell? I think I shouldn't tell you about my further wanderings and torments. I'll tell you one thing. They removed the plantar warts both with a laser and with liquid nitrogen several times. But it was in vain. There were more and more of them, and it seemed that soon my feet would be completely covered with spikes. Hormone therapy didn't work as well, so soon I stopped going to hospitals at all. I had to find another way out. By the way, by that time, I almost couldn't walk and was ready to learn how to walk on my hands in order to restore my right to a normal life, start going to school and walking. Sports were out of the question. Well, those were only my dreams because, in fact, I switched to homeschooling and hardly ever left home. About 6 months later, both of my feet were completely covered with spikes, and each of them was about 1 centimeter long. By that time, I could no longer even walk to the toilet. Because of the complete lack of movement and stress, I began to get fat and depressed. I couldn't even sleep because when the spikes touched something, they started to hurt like hell. I was turning into those whom I once despised. In fact, some of them, perhaps, couldn't keep a healthy lifestyle and do sports for health reasons as well. I was so selfish and short-sighted. Those spikes could be the punishment for my arrogance. To tell you the truth, I often think that this is the case. I'm really lucky that my mother is a very active person with a bunch of friends all over the world. So soon, she made an awesome surprise for me. She took casts of both my feet beforehand, saying that it was necessary for treatment, and a month later she handed me special custom-made boots. There was a hole for each spike, and that's why it didn't hurt to walk. I was happy, because from then on I started getting back to normal life again. To be honest, I no longer hoped for any positive changes in my situation, but soon they happened. The spikes on my feet hardened and stopped making me feel uncomfortable. In fact, the skin on my feet became so coarse that they turned into hooves. They were like spiked hooves of horses. And when another pair of my special boots were completely worn out, I told my parents that I no longer needed special shoes and that they shouldn't spend a fortune on them. From then on, I would walk like that. Don't get me wrong, but each pair of boots cost thousands of dollars, and that is quite a lot for our family. Indeed, people began to look awry at me. Some of them thought I was a mutant. Others thought I was a troll and had special shoes. But I couldn't care less. I recalled everything that I had to go through recently and realized that at that time, I was in the most advantageous position. At least nothing hurt me, and I was happy about it. I went back to school, started working out in the gym, and hanging out with friends. Now I looked differently at those who had a couple of dozen or more extra pounds. It didn't bother me anymore that someone had lunch at McDonald's, and in general, I became more tolerant of others. Unfortunately, I had to pay for this with pain and tears. Recently, my parents and I went to the farm, and there was a fire in the forest. The grass and trees were burning, and the worst thing was that I saw a puppy on the other side of the fire line. It was scared and running back and forth. It got into a fire trap. While everyone was looking at it in fear, I ran across the burning grass to pick it up. It didn't hurt at all, and my feet weren't injured. And most importantly, I pulled the puppy out and took it to a safe place. It turned out that my feet was shot by the farmer's daughter, and she posted this video on TikTok. The video got about 1 million views, and a famous illusionist saw it. Soon he contacted me and offered to work with me in a street show, walking on coals, glass, and needles. I agreed without hesitation. And it wasn't about money at all. I simply wanted to fulfill myself after quitting sports. I worked out in the gym, but it was not the same. And street performances, where I would make the audience experience some emotions, were a very interesting gig. And I made the right decision, because a new stage, full of interesting acquaintances and events, began in my life. Each time I rose above myself, walking on live coals and nails. It didn't hurt me, but it was very hard psychologically. Once I was walking on live coals, and suddenly I felt a severe burning sensation in my feet, and even pain. I was shocked and even screamed and jumped to the side. The audience laughed and shot me. They were sure that it was part of the show, but the pain didn't subside, and I told my partner to call an ambulance. In the hospital, I learned that the skin on my feet had ceased to regenerate endlessly, and soon all this stuff would peel off, and I would have normal feet again. What? I just started to get used to a new life with my hooves, which made me famous in certain circles. This news turned out to be sad and joyful for me at the same time, and I still don't know whether I want to get back my old feet. Anyway, it doesn't matter at all, because there's no turning back. Would you like to have spiked feet? How would you use them besides their designated purpose? Give your answers in the comments. Like this video, and be sure to subscribe to our channel.